Good morning, party people. Oh, Vasilis, so I actually did do a blog post on how I choose the music. So if you go to brentozar.com and you click on the categories up at the top, or click on blog up at the top, there's a home office category. And in there, I talk about my studio setup, the things that I use for streaming. And in the streaming blog post, I also talk about the app that I use. So there's an app called Pretzel. Pretzel is really for podcasters and streamers, and it lets you use totally royalty-free music. So you pay like $6 a month, $6 US a month, and that gets you the rights to use the music in your streams. And so companies like Facebook and Twitch and YouTube are extremely picky about what music they allow on the posts. And if you try to use copyrighted music, they'll yank the audio out of your stream, and you're not allowed to make money off of the stream videos. So that's why I choose the music that I use. I'm also a really big fan of dance music, like electronic dance music. I like a lot of other kinds of music too, all over the place, country, orchestral stuff, all over. But I tend to use a lot of the chiptune type electronic stuff for the streams, just because it's easy with Pretzel and with those apps. So good morning, folks. I see Matt's in here as well, too. Again, good morning, sir. So was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday that I streamed and I was trying to write a blog post, and we ended up going down the rat hole of the Wayback Machine and looking at people's websites and conferences' websites like back through the years. And we came to the conclusion that it's going to be too much work to write a blog post on that. But one of the other things that I had in GitHub in my idea factory was I wanted to write a blog post about startup stored procedures. In SQL Server, you can have startup stored procedures that run automatically whenever the SQL Server engine starts. Just as soon as the SQL Server engine starts, it goes off and runs a stored procedure of your choosing. And it's a feature that I don't think a lot of people know about, but there's a usage for this that's really cool, and every now and then I'll see a senior DBA using this on their servers. What they do is, as soon as SQL Server starts up, they send themselves an email. They send an email to the distribution list that the DBAs are on, just like, hey, my server name is this, and I just rebooted. And I'm always like, oh man, I really need to blog about that because it's a genius technique. And I don't know where that thing originated from. There was probably like a SQL Server magazine article on it back in the day, because I usually see it with really old school database administrators, people who've been around for a really long time. What that's so slick with is if there's some kind of surprise, unexpected outage, then you get this heads-up notification. It's also good for like patch nights. I know when I used to do patching across lots of SQL servers, you can send yourself up a database email that lists how many databases are up okay, are like up and clean, and how many are offline. So that's nice when I'm trying to manage patching across a whole lot of servers and lots of stuff's going on. So the blog post that I'm going to write is like, what is a setup or startup stored procedure, and what would you use them for, and maybe include an example. I don't know how far down the rat hole I'm going to go with testing database mail, but at least just to give them an example that they can go use. So let's go give it a shot. So I have here my WordPress set up. Let's pop back over into the WordPress tab, and let's go add a new post so that we can first get started. So the title, whenever I'm going to write a blog post, sometimes I'm come back to the title when I'm halfway through it. Sometimes I come in knowing exactly what the title is going to be. And also when you write blog posts, sometimes you're writing to gather people who are searching, like people are Googling for a question. The thing is, I don't think anybody knows, or very few people know what a startup stored procedure is. So this blog post isn't going to be great for Google performance. It's really for my existing readers, the ones that I already have. Jedi Mind Gorilla, good morning to you as well. Good to see you. Cheers. I still can't believe that I'm losing weight during the quarantines. Like I started the quarantines at like 193 and I'm down to 187. I've been just, gradually teetering around the same thing, but we've been drinking a lot and eating a lot of bagels, you have me for about probably 3.5 hours until the coffee shop opens downstairs, at which point I'll go get me my tasty bagel. So in here, the blog post title, I'm not going to be able to catch people in who are searching for it. So instead, this is more for my regular readers, and it'll be something that I'll point people to. So how to, well, so it depends. It depends on if you, like what kind of stuff you drink, because when I drink bourbon, I lose weight, but it's because for some reason, I just don't do well with bourbon and with dark beers these days. I used to love Guinness, but I don't do very well with those these days. I don't know if it's like I'm less gluten tolerant or what it is, but it's like brown boozes, like bourbon is specifically. And it's bad because I love the taste of it. It's really good. How to get alerted when your SQL Server restarts. I'm going to start with that, and we may come back and tweak that over time. Whenever I'm writing a new blog post, I'll schedule it for December. It's like December of this year, because then I'm going to come back to it. Every Friday, I go in and kind of lay out my blog post queue for the next week based on a mix of professional development and technical type stuff, marketing stuff, just so I'm like throw a bunch of stuff out in December usually. Which this is also why I'm streaming now, writing this stuff, is because I'm kind of shallow on the queue. I think I've only got like 2 weeks worth of blog posts out right now, and I like to be a little further than that. So this will be in terms of categories, it's going to be production database administration. We'll call it monitoring. And save our draft here. So what does the reader know and what do they not know? Odds are the reader doesn't know what a startup stored procedure is, so I'm not going to lead with that. I'm going to say, your SQL Server just restarted. How do you find out? So when your SQL Server restarts, how do you find out? SQL Server has startup stored procedures that can run automatically whenever SQL Server starts up. There's also agent jobs that can be scheduled. There are also agent. You can also, the traditional alternative, agent jobs that scheduled, or agent jobs that run when agent starts up don't always work as well because they require agent to actually start. Sometimes, well, there's a reason we have jobs. This stuff doesn't always work as planned. Now, so I want to throw in a link to startup stored procedures. So SQL Server startup stored procedure. Whenever I Google for something, I kind of like to guess what's going to come up. So I wonder, so Books Online is obviously going to come up. I wonder if there's an MS SQL tips post on this or a Pinal post on this. Is it going to come up from SQL Authority or MS SQL tips? Based on what I'm Googling, I don't think either of them is going to come up. Good morning, Netherlands. Good to see you out there. So let's try SQL Server Setup Store. Look at that. Yes. Oh, very good. Now, who wrote it? This is another game I like to play. So I bet this is Aaron Bertrand. Automatic parameter name is self-explanatory. I don't know if that's going to be Aaron Bertrand or not. Nope, this is someone else, Armando Prado. So do I link to that? So what do I pick out of here that I'm going to? Oh, there's Pinal too as well. A quick introduction to startup stored procedures. You know, and sometimes as a blogger, you think to yourself, sometimes as a blogger, you think to yourself, hey, it's all been written about. Everyone's always written about things already. Well, as you can see, I'm Googling and there are a couple of posts up there. But you know what the posts weren't about is how to know when your SQL Server restarts, which is why when you bring your own flavor to this, your voice is still needed. And that's why, like, I bet a lot of you didn't know about startup stored procedures either, because you didn't know what to Google for. That's why you write the blog post title as, here's the problem you need to solve, rather than talking about the tool. So in here, let's say, which one am I going to link to? Let's go for both of them. I'm going to put both of them in here. I love that Pinal says a quick introduction to startup stored procedures. Oh, that's actually pretty, yeah, that's good. Create a table and a start property, yep. Yeah, that's good. All right, so let's do that. So copy has startup stored procedures. Link to that over there. Paste. Yeah, and then Jedi Mind Gorilla, you don't pay any attention to the recipes, and then you just diverge and make your own, and you wonder why it tastes so bad. That's not my way of cooking. That's my wife's way of cooking. She does exactly that, whereas I am exactly what the recipe says, exactly, not one tiny variation. I do it exactly as the recipe says. I'm like super anal retentive. I am also not a cook. I suck at those kinds of things. Srikar, hi, howdy. So SQL Server has these setup, startup, stored procedures. Very good. Yes, SQL Dev DBA. That's very good. That was part of our game for that particular page too. So how do you find out? What if we could run a piece of T-SQL code whenever the SQL Server starts and use that code to send an email via database mail. To do it, SQL Server has startup, or the tool we'll use startup stored procedures, let's say that run automatically when SQL Server restarts. Okay, so now let's code one. To pull this off, I need to one, write a stored proc that sends an email with database mail. Two, mark that stored proc as a startup stored proc. So first, write a stored proc that, I don't know that I want to do, so yeah, let's just not even talk about the steps. Let's say first we'll write a stored proc procedure to send an email. And now let's go write that query. Now, do I remember the syntax for SP database mail? Not even close. So SQL Server send email database mail. I should say too, I am not a fan of using database mail because as soon as people learn about database mail, they start to use it for all kinds of stuff like customer notifications, subscription notifications, product returns, anything related to their website. But that backfires horribly whenever you rely on it too much. Now SQL Server CPU is marching up doing things like sending emails when really there are better services for that. But for the DBA, it's totally fine. So here we go. So we'll use SP. I hate how they put in the version number in up here because I don't want that. It kind of time bombs the page. So I'm going to take off the version number and we'll say SP send DB Bibuti, do you just randomly throw out words? How to remove remote scan. Okay, so Bibuti, I'm going to answer that. So a remote scan, what that most likely means is that you're using linked servers. Don't use linked servers. Connect to the server that has the database that you want or has the data that you want. SQL Dev DBAs, I'm with you. I was young and I needed the money too. I've done that exact thing. The stored procedure SP send DB mail, we'll just say enter the stored, and now we'll write our query. So here's SP send. Let me throw that link in there. So here's the documentation on it. Boom. All right, that's done. Now let's go write the example. Bibuti, so then if you need to query, Bibuti, if your query needs to connect to a remote server, that's what a remote scan is. So you may want to, I try not to be tough, but Bibuti, you're just like yelling out random performance tuning optimizations. My consulting time isn't free, unfortunately. So Crazy Tick, good to see you as well. Howdy. So let's see here. I'm going to scroll down and grab the example because, of course, one of the things I really love out of Microsoft's documentation is they do such a good job with the examples. I'm always really impressed with that. Now let's go see here and paste this in. So here's their example. Now I'm not going to just do that directly as is. I have to build a startup stored procedure. That startup stored procedure has to go in the master database. I'm pretty sure it does. So let's say create or alter. So Babooty, I'm going to go ahead and mute you. This isn't really a performance tuning session, so unfortunately. So hi, Spooky. I'm going to go ahead and block you as well, just because that name is a little bit on the offensive side there. DBOU, we'll call, so what people name their stored procedures is always a little tricky. I'm going to say DBA for database administrator, and then say send startup email as begin. And I'm not going to have any parameters to this stored procedure either. So I sometimes when I do code, I'll put a link in at the top of the code to wherever the blog post or whatever that we got it. I don't know that people really need that here. I don't know that it needs to be really in-depth in terms of documentation. So what's going to be inside the email? So they're going to have to fill out their profile. They're going to have to fill out the recipients. They're going to have to fill out, they're not going to have to fill out the body. We're going to talk about what we put inside the body. So we're going to, we are going to expand this in a minute. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it. Just woo. So server restarted, or server started. Now, in here, if I sent an email that looked kind of like this, like if it just said the server started and then I put in the name of the server, I don't want to hard code anything inside this stored procedure. I want it to dynamically get everything from its environment. I want it to get the name of the server, the body of the email, all that needs to come automatically dynamically, so that all we have to do is execute this create or alter, and immediately we have the result that we want on every server that we have. So the subject, I need the server's name in the subject, and I'm going to need the body. So I'm going to declare, I wonder if these can be nvarchar or if they have to be just varchar. So it is subject. Oh, good. Okay, good. So subject is varchar 255, body is nvarchar max. So we'll go grab those, nvarchar 255. So declare subject. And I hate using exactly the same parameters as like something that Microsoft already has. I should pop this even larger so y'all can see it better. So I hate using the same variable name as what SPDB SendMail uses. So instead, I'm going to say email subject nvarchar 255, email body nvarchar max. We'll start there. That I need to set the contents of this to be equals server. Well, actually, I'm going to go a little smaller on the text just because otherwise it's going to not be able to be visible in there. SQL Server started, and we'll say, what's the name of this guy? Add server name. All right, let's see here. Let's make sure that that actually worked the way I wanted it to. Email subject, and execute. Beautiful, SQL 2019. Now, in case for some reason server name came back empty, I'm going to say coalesce. Unknown server name. When a server goes bump in the dark, that's somebody else's problem if they don't have the server name set up correctly, but at least this will still work. Okay, so that's done. Now, next I need to get the email body. So what do I want to put in the body whenever a SQL server restarts? I think about like, what would I want to know whenever a SQL server starts up? I would want to I don't need to know the date time because that's going to be on the email, but I probably do want to know any databases that are offline or suspect. That would be like the first thing that I would want to know. In a perfect world, I would probably really want the contents of SP Blitz, but I'm not going to go so far as to, go and execute that on a server startup. That might take a little while. So let's just start by getting the list of databases that aren't either online or restoring, just the ones that might be problems. That is the end of that espresso. So how are we going to get that? Select star from sys databases. So let's see. So we have here state desk. What are going to be the descriptions that I'm going to be okay? Hi, Rajiv. What are going to be the state descriptions that I'm going to be okay with not looking at? I don't care about online. Let's go look at sys databases and see what we got in here. Sys databases. And see, because of course I don't remember all the possible states inside there. So state, so I don't care about 0 is online. 1 is restoring. Somebody might have 1 is restoring, which somebody might have. Hi, Razwan. Somebody might have a log shipped secondary. I do care about recovering, recovery pending, suspect, emergency. Offline, I think I care about, but offline is kind of normal. People could set databases offline on purpose. I think I am going to include that. So, you know, there's such a large number, and especially, you see how there are several as we go in down here. I think I'm going to just say where it's not in 0, 1, or 7 or 10, because 7 or 10 look normal to me. So 0, 1, 7, and 10, where state not in 0, 1, 7, 10. Jada Mindgirl says we may have databases that may be in recovery, so it may work having rescan after 2 minutes. So what I could do is I could do a wait for. Oh, that's an interesting thought. I could actually put a wait for inside the stored procedure. Now, would I want to send the stored procedure right away? So the thing, normally when a server restarts, like I want to know as soon as this thing starts up, I want to know right bang away. That's a tough one. Let's add a parameter to this. We'll say at send, continue to send emails, send emails until recovery stops. Bit equals 0, and check frequency, or check every minutes between checks. Minutes between checks, int equals 1. So that way, if you want the second knocks, so that way we'll just do a while loop, and while there are still databases that aren't in that list, we'll send another set of knocks. Yeah, so that way people can choose whether or not they want to do it. Okay, so in that case, we're going to have to put a diagnostics URL inside here, because this is going to involve a little bit of work. So let's get the URL for this little thing. This is going to be, I'm going to say June for now. I don't know when it's actually going to be, and I'm just doing this so that I can get a URL that will work for this thing, so that I can copy paste the URL into code. That's going to be the preview link, so let's... actually, well, I'll use a tiny link here in a second. Let's go throw that in. So WordPress has this deal where you can do short codes, where I can do a short code that will say, for example, go startup email. Let's try perfect. Oh, I have a get out of here. Wow, wait, what? I have a diagnostic page on startup stored procedures. Yeah, it doesn't have anything inside there that's any good. I'm not going to do that. So instead, we'll say, we'll add a new one. Go startup email. And then we will have it redirect to hey, what? So there's that, and then get this, and copy this all out, cancel, yeah, okay, sure, whatever, and paste that in over here. So paste, there we go, add redirect, so we're going to have /go. This is far more fun. It's not even, oh, it is light in Houston. I was like, how can it even be, because it's 640 out there. Yeah, it's probably nice and light. What do you have to do on the boat this weekend? And it's Father's Day too. Don't forget, y'all, tomorrow's Father's Day. You got to send reminders and all that kind of thing. I'm sure you're going to hear it from like 6 gajillion people. Learn more info, HTTPS, www.brentozar.com. Regular maintenance kind of stuff. Nice. Go startup. All right. So, startup email. All right, there we go. Okay, so now we've got the mail subject knocked out, the sys databases. Okay, so what we'll say is we're going to now build the body. What do I want to say in the body of the email? If everything's cool and we don't have any if we don't have any databases in suspect or recovery or whatever, we're just going to say all databases accounted for. So we'll say if exists, if not exists, select star from sys databases, set email body equals all databases, okay. And then else, we're going to have to build a string. We're going to build a string with a list of all of the databases that have unusual statuses. Now, I'll tell you what. Every single time that I have to go, Jedi Mind Girl says, is it possible to see a percentage of recovery? You can see that in the log. SOC DBA, that's pretty good. You can see it in the log. I don't know that there's a DMV that I could query. We could read the error log, but that can get kind of ambitious. Now, the reason why normally I would never read the error log, because the longer that a SQL server's been up, the less likely it is that somebody's actually cycled the error log. So it can take really a long time. Now, however, though, if I could get it to attach the error log, that might actually be interesting. That might be worth playing around with. So what I was going to say is when I go to build the email body, you know what you want is you want a list of databases and their states. And the old school way of doing this would be to build a cursor through sys databases and build a cursor through sys databases for all the ones that have those weirdo statuses and keep appending onto the string. That's the way that 2004 Brent would have done it. Now, today, I would do it differently. I would go and append a string using like the for XML method. I never freaking remember how to do this. So there's this tool like when you do for XML inquiries, you can automatically, oh, thanks, Crazy Tech, I appreciate it. So you can automatically build a string by saying for XML in the query. I freaking never remember how to do this. So we're going to have to Google this to remember how to do this as well. This is kind of funny because I knew when I picked this one, I'm like, you're going to get to see how I end up having to write. So concat, post a link to, I don't think that works in newer, or what was a min version? Let's go see what the min version is. So concat, I was thinking that was 2012, SQL Server concat. So I hate doing stuff that isn't supported in 2008, and I know that sounds kind of goofy, but I should. Concat, concat. Oh, but that doesn't work across multiple rows, does it? Oh, it probably does. Here, hold on a second. Let's go see. So concat, let's go. Select, what do I want? Name from sys databases. What do I want? Name is name. Okay, so concat, we're going to declare a string. Declare my built string. Thanks, Paul. My built string and varchar for, we'll say and varchar max, just because it's the same thing here. Select concat. Now I got to build in my built string. So my built string equals, I think this is what you're trying to say that you want me to use, gsurgeon. Concat my built string. I have no idea if this actually works. Let's see if that actually works. Select my built string. I don't know that that's going to work. Hot dog, yes, it worked. So gsurgeon, so I'm going to put your name in the release notes in here so that we can credit y'all for a Hall of Fame kind of thing. Actually, you know what? Rather than putting everybody's name next to stuff that I'm working on, I'm going to say contributors from the live stream. Let's see here. Jedi Mind Gorilla and gsurgeon. So I'm probably mispronouncing. J-Surdine. That's got to be what it is. I don't know where I'm getting surgeon. I keep misspelling. I keep flipping the J and the I. So probably G-Surdine is probably what that is. Jedi Mind Gorilla. Come on, man. 2 wrongs should make a right. Oh, okay. Surgeon. Well, now are you being serious or are you being, let's see here. We'll go G surgeon. Da, 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 da. There we go. That's kind of cool. It's kind of like a genie kind of thing. Or if not, if however you want credit, just put that in there in the chat and I'll put it in. So that's kind of cool. So we're going to build the string. So here, this is the thing. So this concat thing will help us build one row after another. This is just a neat trick, just generally. Now, what the other thing that I need inside here, because I want right. So SQL Emmanuel is going to use the thing that I was going to do. Unfortunately, it just gets a little complicated when I try to put in multiple columns. The string plus thing gets a little tricky. So what I'm going to say is I want the database's state, databases, and then I also want a carriage return and line feed, and I'll show you how I'll do that trick. So state description, that's the column that I'm going to add there. So name and do state, da, 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 and state desk. Okay, so that'll get me the, then I also need a carriage return and line feed, but I'll talk to you how about I build that in a second. So let's at least get their states. Okay, here we go. So now we've got our databases listed and their states. I only want the databases who have the wacko statuses. So we'll say where state not in, and we'll copy paste that list out. There's that. And let's see. Now, I'm gonna actually comment that out just because when we're testing our strings, I don't want to show that. So here we have all our list of databases. Now I need carriage returns and line feeds. Carriage returns and line feeds are CR, let's see here, plus nchar 13 and 10. I never remember exactly what this is. Let's try it. Execute. No. All right, perfect. Okay, so that might actually work when we send the email, though. Let's start with that. Okay, so here's my built string. Now I got to go and put that into the body of my email. So we'll say I don't want to do the declare. I don't want to call it my built string. I want to call it email body, coalesce, database name. In case the database name isn't available for some reason, I'm going to say DBID. Database ID plus DBID. It's not DBID, it's ID. I think it's just ID out of sys databases. Select star from sys databases. It is database underscore ID. All right, so database underscore ID. Database ID, state. All right, so there we've got all our states from sys databases. I think that will do the trick. Now we're not going to select. Okay, good. There we go. All right, so now we need to say the email body is going to be our new variable at email body. The email subject is going to be at email subject. All right, now I think we're pretty close. Now, I think I got everything that I need inside there. Now what I need next, and I'm going to need the while. I'm going to need the while to go do follow-up emails, and I'm not exactly sure how I want to do that just yet. I'm going to tackle that at the end after I get the first working database email. Next thing that I've got is I've got profile and recipients. So what I want is I want this thing to automatically mail whoever the operator is, like the fail-safe operator for this SQL server. I don't want it, Paul, that could be too as well. I don't want it to be, I don't want people to have to set this up manually as they set up this stored procedure. I want them to literally just be able to hit F5 and their server's taken care of. So I'm going to have to pull the database mail profile, the profile and the fail-safe recipient. So where do we go get this from? Gasper, thanks. Glad you like it. I get disturbingly excited by these two. So now I'm going to drive this dynamically. In order to drive it dynamically, I'm going to need to pull the operators and profiles from database mail. Do I remember what those DMVs and system tables are? Not no, but hell no. So when I'm experimenting, I like to just go spelunking through IntelliSense. So there are two ways that I like spelunking, because sometimes I just like challenging myself. Sometimes I like challenging myself without reading the documentation. And when I like to challenge myself and go guess what things are, Jedi Mind Gorilla, I know, right? It makes you, watching other people code helps you understand where you're at relative to everybody else. That's one of the things that I love most about live coding. You know what? It's the same thing that I love about Twitch. So the stuff that I love about watching other people play video games on Twitch, when I first heard about Twitch, I'm like, you're out of your mind. Who on earth would want to watch other people play video games? And then as soon as I watched it, I was like, oh, I want to watch other people play video games because I either suck at that game or I'm okay at it. If I suck at it, I love watching someone who's good. If I'm okay at it, I love watching how they would do as opposed to what I would do. So that I end up finding it mesmerizing. So for me, that live coding is the same kind of thing. So if I'm going to go learn something and challenge myself without looking at the documentation, I either like spelunking through IntelliSense, just start typing out and see what IntelliSense fills out for me, or I go through sys all columns and sys all objects. All columns and all objects are SQL Server's built-in instrumentation that list all the objects, including system ones. So you can go query for columns that you're interested in. So for me, because database mail's over in MSDB, I'm gonna go pop over into MSDB in another window and then say select star from sys all objects, then where name like mail, and see what we got. Order by type desk, name. So now that this type desk gives you the stuff that we're looking for. I don't care about constraints. Let's see what else we got. Foreign keys, I don't really care about. Service queue, stored procedures, user, I think we have our wieners. Sysmail profile, I like the looks of that. So select star from, is it sysmail, nope, it's not sys. It's probably DBO, sysmail profile. See what we get inside. And I don't have database mail set up, which is another journey that we're going to have to go on here. But it looks like I'm going to be able to get the profiles out of there. And I'm going to have to figure out what the default profile is. So there's probably also another DMV or whatever that says what the default profile is. Looks like there's also sysmail account. All right, so before I go and query any of those, to get working information out of there, I'm going to have to do a few different things. I'm going to configure database mail in a way that it's just configured, but there's no fail-safe, like somebody didn't do the work of setting up a fail-safe properly, because I still want this stored procedure to work. Then I'm also going to try configuring my SQL Server with properly configured database mail with a good account, good fail-safe, and all that stuff. I'm going to stop for a moment to give a shout out to this week's stream sponsor, SQL Grease. So SQLgrease.com has monitoring tools with all kinds of ease of use stuff built in. You install the agent on your computer, it checks your SQL Server, and then sends data up to the cloud. They do all kinds of in-depth analytics up there in the cloud, and you can get started totally for free. They have a 14-day trial that you can use, and then they also have a totally free version that just runs for 7 days. So if you're just trying to troubleshoot something on your SQL Server temporarily, you can start gathering data for 7 days and then come back and then redo it as many times as you want. You just have to go back to their site and register again. So now let's go set up database mail. Let's see here. Now, I want to say that I have a script on how to do it on our site. If you go to brentozar.com, go alerts. Gabriel, I'm going to have to do operators too as well. And when you say operators ? I don't know if that means you don't know what operators are or if... no, that one doesn't set up database mail. Okay, so database mail setup site, brentozar.com. Because if I have a script that I can link people to, I'd always rather do that. Perfect, great, beautiful. So I can copy paste that link out and put it back over into the blog post. For this to work, you'll need to configure database mail on your SQL Server. Can add operators. I don't want to add operators. I don't want to add anything inside here. I just want them to be able to hit F5 and have this thing work immediately. So execute. And if they don't have operators, I'm not gonna go configure it for them. I'm not gonna go quite to that extreme. All right, so now I got my post over here on how to do database mail. Let's go look here. Check to make sure that SQL Server is configured to use the database mail stuff. Execute. So it is not turned on. So database mail is not turned on. Do we have? We don't have. Yes, okay, good. We even have code to do it. That's fantastic. Paste. And I know I don't have that. That's fine. All right, so we've turned on database mail. Configuring database mail with the wizard. Hell yes. Oh, man, I'm going to have to configure it for Gmail because I don't have a database mail server in here. So let's go. Is it under there? Where's it at? Man, I didn't want to look inside here, but yep, there it is. There we go. Configure database mail. So next, set up database mail, create a new profile. Yep. So I'm going to create a profile. I'm going to call this Brent's Gmail and add. So Brento at brentozar.com. Email address brento at brentozar.com. SQL 2019A. I think SQL 2019 is my server. Reply email brento at brentozar.com. Mail server. I don't know why I'm singing that song today. Gmail SMTP settings. And then let's see here. Check Gmail. I don't want to check. I want to send. Outgoing smtp.gmail.com, and then come back over here. Boom. And it wants the port for SSL is 465, requires an SSL. I may need to put in authentication. I'm going to have to come back here and look. Obviously, I don't want to do that on the web screen. Now, okay, so here's where we start to talk about whether database mail is configured correctly or not. For the first go round through, I am not going to set a default profile. I'm not going to set a public profile. I'm just going to next my way through this because I kind of want to set it up incorrectly. Jedi Mind Gorilla. So I kind of want to set it up incorrectly just so that when I go to query the DMVs, I can see if there's enough workable information inside there. So we'll say next. Retry attempts, that's all okay. Next, finish, close. Now let's try to test it. Send test email, and we'll go to Brento at brentozar.com, send test email, and okay. And now I'm going to switch screens for a second here, just so that I can bring up my own email and look to see if I got the test. And no. So I did not get the test, which is kind of what I expected with authentication. So I'm going to go ahead and set up authentication. I'll put this up on the screen in the meantime. Talk amongst yourselves. So let me go get my authentication stuff for Gmail because I think that's going to be what it is wanting. Configure database mail. Oh, Paul says 587 is the only port that worked for me. All right, Paul, I'll give that a shot too as well. What? I went in and, I went into the wizard and it, unfortunately, I screwed that up. I went into the wizard and it, what? Configure database mail. Next. Set up. Man, it's under there. Okay, all right. Viewer change. This is really weird. Let's see here. That's me. Next. This is crappy. This is really crappy. Next, so we'll try 587. And while we're in here, we'll put in the authentication. This is Brento at brentozar.com. My password, I got to go get from my password manager because I'm a good human being. Gmail, or it's Google. Copy. And let's see if that actually works. I don't have a lot of confidence in that, but let's go see. Let's test database mail. And to Brento at brentozar.com, send a test. And no, still said trombone. Oh man, this is really not the part that I wanted to get stopped and fuddled around with, is trying to get database mail working on my frickin' on Google. So what I'm going to do is I will, what do I want to do? So I want to get that working. I want to get that working, especially given that I want to test it here on the stream. Let's take a bio break. So what we'll do is we'll take a 5-minute bio break. I'll work on this a little and refill my espresso, and then hopefully when we come back, I'll have troubleshooted this. I just don't want to jump back and forth between. Spare Delete says, does Google filter out emails that you sent from your account to yourself? No, but what I think it is that I think I'm going to need an app-specific password, because I remember having to set this up for, brace yourself, my fax machine. I know, yes. It's the year 2020 and I still have a fax machine. I don't use it. It's not hooked up to the phones. It's just that we scan stuff from time to time when businesses want to send us contracts that are just crappy. Okay, so I'm going to take a 5-minute bio break and we will come right back. I'll see y'all in 5 minutes. Okay, welcome back. So, Botsko's I think you're talking Botsko. I think you're talking about the girl with the pearl earring. So that is a piece of art that is it's the girl with the pearl earring, but the numbers of pi are laid down on top of her. So like the whole painting has 3.14159, you know, all the numbers of pi layered over it. So it's kind of neat, talking about the beauty of numbers and nature and all this. But I've had that piece for like 10 years. Got that back when we lived in Houston. It was a neat. We used to go to a lot of art shows and pick up all kinds of stuff. And then what we realized is we don't have enough wall space. So we have, I kid you not, the closet in my office, I have probably 30 paintings and pictures and whatnot that we just don't have enough time or enough wall space to put up everywhere. Plus, we're kind of minimal. We don't really like that many pieces of art. And I'll tell you, some of the stuff that's my favorite, I have an original signed t-shirt from Mythbusters with all 5 of the Mythbusters on there. Grant, Tori, Carrie, and of course the 2 big guys. But yeah, so it's all kinds of stuff that I just love that we don't have up on the walls. So I try to move stuff around and put it in different places every now and then and give you all different pictures of stuff. So the friggin' database mail. So holy smokes. So this reminds me of why I stopped. I used to have my own home clusters. I used to have a couple of servers in my closet like 5-10 years ago. I used to have servers in my closet. I used to run VMware ESX, and I would layer on Active Directory controller, domain controllers on top of that, DNS, all those kinds of things in my house. But when you run it for, whether you're doing it for fun, you know, just for learning or whatever, or whether you're doing it for work, it's the same level of work. And so I would get so frustrated that something would break, like I'd have a domain controller problem, and then I had to go and troubleshoot it. Surly, you're just too young. You're too young to remember the real original Mythbusters. And there were more along the way. There was the woman, the test drive woman who died, who passed away. She's one of the earlier ones. But yes, I just don't bother running home domains anymore. And trying to get database mail working reminds me of everything that was painful about that. So I'm just looking at this and I'm going, I don't even know that I want to bother making it automatically driven for now. You know what? I'm not even going to bother doing that. I'm just going to flat out say you have to pass in the email address and whatnot. But also, I'm looking at this and I'm like, I'm mentally checked out of trying to get Gmail to work on my server, so I'm not even going to bother. I am probably just going to say, here's a shell example of code and y'all run with it. Now, what I'll do is, I am not going to finish so here you can see just in terms of where I'm at, in terms of where I'm at with trying to troubleshoot this damn thing. So I've got an app password in Gmail, because I remembered everything I had to do to get the fax machine working. I had to get an app password in Gmail, put that in instead of I'm not even relaying somewhere else. I'm sending to my own domain. I'm sending from brentozar.com to brentozar.com, and it's saying that I'm relaying. I'm like, I'm not even ready for that. But just to show y'all, exactly, I'm the same way with like my networking gear and all that. It just needs to be absolutely bulletproof and work. Part of me wants to put in a Raspberry Pi into a Pi hole just for ad blocking, but I know that it's going to break when I'm gone, and my wife's going to be like, DNS isn't working, except she's not going to know what DNS is. She's just going to be like, I can't watch my videos, so it needs to be utterly bulletproof. So it's saying that it can't do relaying, but if I go in and I go into configuring database mail, so in here, and manage accounts and profilers, and view change in existing account. So here, they're telling me that I have to use this SMTP relay. I don't even want to do relaying, but if I go back over into Gmail's config, so I'm going to try just plain SMTP. Please, for the love of God, just work. So Michael says pops up on a message on the inbox and asks to allow. That's not the problem that I'm having here. So let's go, we'll dump this in and do it. And next. And finish and go. Paul, that's great. I cannot stand Office 365. I cannot stand it. I have had so many problems with it saying stuff is spam when it's not. And I gave up. I'm so angrily, bitterly frustrated at how bad it is around spam detection. So let's see here, view database mail, so 13, yep, still, and it's still saying that relay is denied, whammo, it's still not working, mail relay denied, so much for that. So we'll go ahead and close this out. I may come back to this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put everything that I have so far into that blog post, and I'm going to leave myself a note on what I need to do next. We'll close out of all this stuff, close out of you, and then so put the code text snippet into here, paste, add. Brent, note to self. Paul, Paul, I said that I did that. Paul, I totally appreciate your help, but I'm good, thanks. Paul's Brent, note to self, all having problems getting Gmail working on SQL 2019 VM. This probably also means I need to write a post on how to get SQL Server database mail working with Gmail. So the thing that's always funny with stuff like this is that part of me wants to write a post on, okay, how do you get Gmail working for SQL Server? But at the same time, you shouldn't be doing that. It's a really bad idea. What you should be using is your own company's, whatever your company's mail servers are. And then also, I don't want to support it because when you write those kinds of blog posts, you get a lot of consumer grade questions around. Yep, Paul, that's great. So you're saying it works on your machine, huh? Great. Thanks. So I don't want to deal with the support questions on a post like that. So I'm going to leave that one in my drafts folder. I'm going to change the date on that to December, which is also going to break my redirect. So I'm also going to take that, more info, put redirect email here, and then save that little fella. And So that, I'm going to stick a fork in that one. I already burned like 45 minutes trying to get that thing to work. I'm going to come back to that at some other point when I'm not so frustrated. I'll tell you what, it's really funny. Nothing makes my blood boil personally like trying to do tech support. I get so angry, like I can't even explain it. I get physically angry when basic 100 level tech doesn't work. Stuff that should be just bulletproof in the year 2020, things that shouldn't be a problem at all. Sending an email with SQL Server shouldn't be hard. SQL Server on startup, when you first install it, should ask for an email address, a distribution list where you want your alerts to go. Microsoft should figure it out. This is not rocket surgery. It shouldn't take 15 minutes. Put in a destination email that is just irks the daylights out of me. I swear a lot in person. If you ever get the chance to meet me when there aren't like recordings going on, I have a viciously foul mouth, and it is taking everything that I have here not to get just yelling and screaming that Microsoft can't figure out the utter basics around sending a notification when the server is down. Just irks the daylights out of me. Now, Surly Dev, now for bonus points, I really wish that it would connect to the SQL Server or connect to Exchange or whatever and test that it's actually a DL and not a specified email address, but I care if it won't. Paul, okay, cool. So, gotcha. So cool. So in here, I'm like, so nothing, I was going to say, nothing makes my blood boil like 100 level simple tech stuff that should just frickin' work. And I got really frustrated with relatives doing tech support. Like people would say, hey, I've got this problem on my Windows box. I can't connect to whatever. And I would try and troubleshoot. I would try and get people's backups working, stuff like that. I got to the point in my personal life where it would make me so angry doing 100 level tech support for my relatives that I said, you know what, I'm just going to start buying y'all apples. And the reason why I said that is apples have Genius bars. And that way, when you have a problem with 100 level tech support type stuff on your Apple, you can go to the Genius bar and our family interactions won't be filled with hate and anger. Because I love my family. They're wonderful people. They really do nice things. But when they bring me a tech support request, I want to stab them in the face. So that was the end of that. Just bought everybody apples. I didn't buy my dad and stepmom. Thoroughly deaf. I like that. That's good. I didn't buy my dad and stepmom Macs because they were comfortable already in the Windows realm. But yeah, and so when there was, what was it that the old joke was, in order to get out of doing tech support, when people ask you what you do at a party, you would say something utterly and despicable, so that way they wouldn't ask you tech support questions. Yeah. Oh, geez. So I'm going to stick a fork in that particular blog post, and I'm kind of disappointed and angry that I even ran into those levels of problems, and let's do something else instead. Surly Deaf, that's not a bad reference to it. The way that I do it now, because a lot of my family knows that I do computer stuff, I'm like, look, I only work on computers that cost at least $250,000. And they're always like, wait, what? And I'm like, no, well, the servers that I work on, they have a certain level of infrastructure. There are a lot of things that are already built into there, and we're solving really hard problems. I just suck at Windows desktop tech support these days. That everything that I work on is just so dramatically different than what you have on your desktop. I'm like, if you want to buy a $250,000 computer, I can totally come over and take a look at it. But until we get to that point, it doesn't really make sense. And they're like, what? And it also makes sense, and then they start to understand why I do what I do. Like, I'm to use Surly Dev's thing. I'm much more like a race car mechanic than I am just fixing taxis. Okay, so that thing, I'm going to close that window with extreme prejudice, and we are going to move on to something else. Next thing that I wanted to go and do this weekend, because I get to use my weekend mornings before Erica wakes up to go and do stuff. Boss goes, I envy you that you don't need to do that. It's up to you. You can say no. You can say no, but of course, he's saying to Jedi Mind Gorilla, I don't need to do tech support. The if it doesn't drain you, then it's not so bad. Like I used to do that kind of thing when it didn't drain me, but over time it just made me so angry that basic tech functionality wouldn't work, and would lose my mind. All right, so the other thing that I want to do this morning was we've got a couple of issues over in the first responder kit, and I wanted to go take a look at those and see if there's anything that I can lend a hand with. Close that window with extreme prejudice. Yes, I'll fork you. So I'm going to show you the issue that I'm interested in, and then I'm going to have to come back to this camera to talk through it because the thing's kind of complex. So we will alt fork that with extreme prejudice, and that's the end of that one. So back over here, and I'm going to close that window too, just so that I don't lose my mind, because that's going to drive me crazy when I go in and hit that. So in here, there's a few things that I'm going to go through and check, but this one is the one that I find really funny. So with SP Blitz first, and I'll copy this out just so that those of y'all who are going back and forth, so the issue I'm discussing, just so that those of you who are in on Twitch can go and copy paste that link. SP Blitz first is our performance diagnostics stored procedure. The way that it works is it takes a snapshot of a whole bunch of stuff to disk, like DMVs, wait stats, file stats, takes a snapshot of a whole bunch of stuff to TempDB, waits for 5 seconds, takes another snapshot, and compares what happened during that time in order to tell you why SQL Server is slow. One of the diagnostics that was added, I want to say Eric Darling originally added this, was queries with 10,000x cardinality misestimations, meaning SQL Server thought it was only going to be dealing with, say, 1 or 2 rows, but 10,000 rows came back. Classic symptom of parameter sniffing, where we build a tiny data plan and we think that hardly any data is going to come back, but in actuality, a ton of data comes back. Now, this is only relevant for newer versions of SQL Server. I want to say it's like sysdm exec query profiles or something. So I want to say it's like 2016 where this stuff starts to work. And the way that it works is looking at live query plans, basically. As your query plan is running, you can query this DMV and go see what the progress of each operator is. So I'm going to write a quick repro post or repro query to show you the kinds of things it's going to flag. So let's go pop over into the SQL Server. I'm going to use the Stack Overflow database, the big monster one, because that's going to make it a lot easier to demo this thing. And one of the classic problems with table variables is that they underestimate how many rows are going to come back. So I'm going to declare users table ID int, insert into users ID, oops, let's be consistent, select ID from DBO users, and then select star, well, we'll just do count star users. So if I run this query, first thing a SQL Server is going to do is go load the like 9 million users into the table variable. The second thing that it's going to do is go select them back out. This right here is the kind of thing that we're worried about. We're worried about where SQL Server only estimates 1 row, but in actuality, a whole bunch come back. Now, in this example of me just hitting execute on this, it doesn't really hurt anything because this thing runs super fast. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to add a join out from this to another table. Let's say from users U, inner join DBO comments C on UID equals C user ID. And then I'm going to say U location C or count star as comments. Whoops, so it's not, it's not that, it's ID. And we'll do top 1000, group by UID, order by count star descending. So let's see how long this takes. And I honestly don't know if this is going to be something that returns quickly or not, but what's happening now behind the scenes is the thing that I'm worried about. Okay, so that's good. It's taking a while. Let's go run SP Blitz first and see. So SP Blitz first takes its little 5-second sample. So SP Blitz first always takes like at least 5 seconds in order to run. And when it finishes, my SQL Server is also running slow as hell right now because it's allocating memory. It's going to gradually be allocating more and more RAM. When SQL Server, it's been true for like 2016, 2017, 2019, when it's allocating RAM, it seems to perform really, really poorly right during startup. So here we go, and of course my top weight was memory allocation. This right here, this is exactly what I'm focusing on. Queries with 10,000x cardinality misestimations. If I click on the query plan over here, then I can see this is the problem that we're trying to catch. So when Greg Dodds originally filed this help desk request, or not help desk request, when he filed this GitHub issue, he said, hey, when I run SP Blitz first, it's showing my own query in here. It's showing SP Blitz first's own query as a cardinality estimation problem. This spawned a whole discussion, and people have, he's got a repro query in there and around how to see it. But it spawned a whole discussion that had another interesting point. Let's go down and see who originally brought this up. That's also... oh, The Simpsons. I love it. So if I go further down here, this... I want to say it was Urizen who originally caught this. Is it Urizen who caught it? Yeah, yes. So I don't know who this is. So let's go see who Urizen is. Oh, welcome to the club. What's in my OPSEC and Relaxaholic? Nicholas Bialamark said, and I'm going to kind of sum up what Nicholas said. Thank you, SAC 2001. Thank you. So I'm going to sum up what Nicholas said. So the problem is not just that this thing pops up, but what if it's alerting me about 10,000x off in the other direction? What if it's telling me that we expected like 50 million rows to come back, but only 3 rows came back? He said that's also 10,000x off, but it's wrong. You can't alert people about that. You can't alert people when SQL Server thought a lot of rows were going to come back, but only a few rows were actually came back. And let me see if y'all can figure out the problem. And I'm going to show you a query that generates it, and we'll see if y'all can understand. What's in my OPSEC? Why do people see? That's funny. That's good. So instead, let's say select star from DBO users where reputation plus upvotes is less than, let's say, negative 10 million. And then execute. So let's see what this does. SQL Server has a really tough time estimating the number of rows that will come back when you put in combos like this, because it doesn't have stats across both columns combined. It has stats on each individual column, but not the two totaled. So if I look in here, at first, this looks like a cardinality estimation problem. At first, it looks like SQL Server expected to bring back 2.7 million rows. It actually brought back 0. This would be really good for us to alert people about while it's happening. But I can't. So why can't I? If I'm looking at live execution plans while queries are running, why can't I alert on people about that? And so we'll see if y'all can figure it out over in the chat. If you can tell me why I can't tell people, why I shouldn't be allowed to tell people about this right here. And I'm going to write another query while you do that. From DBO comments where, let's just do top 100. Just so that I can see, okay, great, where score plus user ID is less than negative 1 million or 10 million, whatever it is. Bingo, Rossi, yes. Exactly, yes. You nailed it, yes. So what happens is, if I go and say select star, and this time around, I'm going to include the live execution plan, because I can do this because this query is going to take a little while in order to run. So here's what, this is one of the crappy things about, I know in streams, I get a little angry sometimes when SQL Server doesn't work correctly. This is one of those times where live query statistics are supposed to show you the live execution plan while the query runs. Unfortunately, I have about a 10% success rate of that actually happening. Very often, live query statistics does not return anything until the query is completely finished. That, what you just see there, is an example of why. That is also why people from Microsoft don't watch my streams with their real names, because they know that if I saw them leaving comments, I would rip them a new one. Thank you, Northern Canuck. I appreciate it. Okay, so, but you, W. Rossi, I wanted to show you that live in real time to show what W. Rossi was talking about inside here, but unfortunately live query statistics isn't working. What happens is SQL Server, well here, I'll run SP Blitz Who in another window. This will help me show it. We'll move this over here. So then I'm going to run this and run this. So what SP Blitz Who will do, among many other things, is it will show you the live query plan. If I click on this, this is exactly the kind of thing that we're using in order to give you warnings about estimates versus actual. Adam Saxton, ladies and gentlemen, Adam Saxton, who is wonderful. And I will not blame for anything in terms of broken SQL Server engine, because you work in a totally different team, and that's cool. And I'm not saying that your stuff all works beautifully either, but I don't webcast on Power BI, so that's okay. But I love Power BI. I use it myself. 2 thumbs up, absolutely wonderful. Use it all the time with clients to show them what's wrong with their SQL servers. Which is, I'm going to go off on a tangent because Adam's here. So Adam Saxton broadcasts, streams on YouTube about Power BI, does a wonderful job with camera gear, being excitable, presentable, all that stuff. If you use Power BI at all, you should totally check out Guy in a Cube. It's a YouTube channel, Guy in a Cube, that does really fun, entertaining stuff around Power BI. Now, separate thing, should SQL Server professionals learn Power BI? No, I'm not saying that you have to by any means. I find it useful for me to present visualizations of the stuff that I find inside servers. I don't blog about it only because I don't tend to want to be known in that space. It's not like I want to be a teacher of that. It's the same feeling I have about Postgres. I spend about 50% of my time in Postgres, but I don't blog about that or write about that either, just because I'm a consumer, not as much a teacher. Okay, so back over here for W. Rossi's nailed this. So right here, this is the reason why I can't warn people when we're 10,000 underestimated, because the query hasn't finished yet. I don't know if it just got started and it's actually going to find all of the results, or if it actually just didn't find any results, like that the cardinality estimation was bad. So what I got to do, and I just love that W. Rossi caught it inside here, but Urise source, so this Nicholas Bialamark, this is just beautiful that he caught it. It's just fantastic. So I'm going to respond in here, Urise source, this observation, copy, paste is, and I'll do the pop in quote, it's that guy, is utterly brilliant and correct for underestimations, but we can still do it for overestimations. I'm going to fork that off into a separate issue, and let's go create the issue and link to it, just because I always try to, I don't want to merge multiple things inside the same issue. Greg's issue about SP Blitz first warning about its own query is valid, but then so's this other thing as well. So let's go back over onto new issue, open a new tab. Bug. Northern Canuck, my colleague once said, I love that. Doesn't the live query plan distinguish when that section of code has completed running, though? The line changes to a solid line. Yes, but we would have to go in and analyze that stuff. Like, we're going to have to go deeper with the text analysis than we do today. Absolutely, we could. We just haven't done it yet. So, SP Blitz first. Shouldn't warn about 10,000x cardinality underestimations. So version of script, I always try to be a good presenter, or I always try to be a good bug filer, and because other people I know read my bugs, so it says version of the script, I got to actually go pull that out then. So the version of the script that I'm using is the current dev branch, but I can't just say that to people. I want to be good and say what the exact version number is. So let's page down through here. Here we go. Copy and paste. Version number of the script. So what is the current behavior? The cardinality estimation check will give a false alarm if a query just started running. It estimates a large number of rows. It hasn't started pulling those rows back. So estimated equals 0, actual equals big number. Reserved for later use. And I always wanted, hey, I don't have COVID-19. I have asthma, and so vulnerable to COVID-19, to the effects of it. But the coughing is a normal thing, especially in the mornings for me. And yes, I've actually been tested for COVID-19 too as well. Not that one test ever clears you for forever, but so if the current behavior is a bug, please provide the steps to reproduce. Run a long-running query that scans a lot of data but doesn't actually return any rows. So let's give paste that link just so that I still got it. Let's give the repro script in here, the one that I ran. Damn it, I didn't include I closed that window already? Idiot. Select star from DBO. You know, I kind of liked it. It sounds kind of crazy, Surly Dev. I actually liked it because I have really bad allergies, and when they stick the big huge thing up my nose, they brought it back out, and I was like, wow, I can breathe even better. And so then at that point, I was like, could you do the other nostril? And she's like, get out of here. We only have so many swabs. Good morning, Mirka. Sort of. I'm not saying it was pleasant, but it was the after effects that I was like, wait, holy smokes, this actually isn't so bad. From Stack Overflow, DBO comments, where score plus user ID is greater, less than, we'll say negative. Copy that out, paste that over into here, and there that goes. And copy. All right, so there, that's done. What is the expected behavior? So the expected behavior is, for now, don't alert on cardinality. Poor Surly Dev. Cardinality underestimations. Originally raised by, what the heck was that guy's name? It was Horizon Source. Horizon Source here. Boom. Okay. It's always been affected, so that's fine. If we wanted to, as suggested by, who was this up here? It was Northern Canuck. Northern Canuck on the stream, and thank you for subscribing. Woot! We could check to see that an operator has actually finished, and then it would work. All right, so there's that. I'm not going to assign anybody for now. I'm going to call it a bug in SP Blitz first. And then I'm not going to put a milestone on it for now. We'll just put that in. And so I'm going to copy that link out. Now I can go back and thank Horizon Source here. There we go. So now I'm going to comment that in. So now I've just put in a link to, hey, dude, your Nicholas's idea was just freaking brilliant that we're alerting on cardinality underestimations when we can't. That's awesome. That's amazing. So now back over on the pull request. I want to say he's got a pull request. Yeah. All right, so he has, now let's see what, oh, Horizon had a pull request as well. Hot diggity. Man, y'all are, wow, Gabriel, 11 times. Whoa. That's terrifying. Nicholas, I saw the stream on YouTube. I was bored enough to go look if I can fix it. Where clause, yes, that's all fine. So you submitted a pull request. All right, so what does your pull request do? Because I don't know if he's only working on the cardinality underestimation thing. It is. Okay, so that's this. Wow, woo, Nicholas just went to town on this thing. So row count is greater, so this always makes sense. Removing this section caused me to no longer be able to reproduce a blaming thing. Man, this guy's on fire. This is really good. Okay, beautiful. Oh, look at this. Oh, woohoo. So he fixed the issue around underestimation. That's just absolutely fantastic. So I love this. I am going to say, brilliant. Whoops, brilliant. And then approve and submit. And let's accept his pull request. So we will merge. I'm going to tag this as, I'm going to assign Horizon because I always like to give people credit over in the release notes. This is a bug. This is in SP Blitz first. This is in the July milestone because we'll include this in the July release. Merge the pull request, confirm. And this fixes 2438. I separated out the lowball estimate issue just in case Greg's self-reporting issue still happens. Great work. It'll be it's in the dev branch now and will be in the July release along with credit for you in the release notes. Brilliant, just really good work. So now I got to write a credit for this person in the blog post. So I'm going to write a credit for them and in the change log that the public sees, because I always think it's important to go show folks what's part of the release and have them, and also thank the people who contribute code because they put so much freaking work in here. Let's see here. So this is the updated first responder kit. And we will go in now for the blog post for July, and we will say SP Blitz first, fix, no longer alert on 10,000x cardinality underestimations because they're false alarms when the query just started and hasn't retrieved data yet. Number 2438, thanks. And let's go get the URL, copy and paste. And then let's get Nicholas's name and his, boy, I'm going to be copying that out, that's for sure. Copy and paste. Nicholas Bialamark. I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, but Nicholas is a smart freaking character. And there we go. So paste that in and we're good. So we'll save that little fella. And off we go. So I love that. I love that issue. Now the original issue that was reported on, I think Greg still has that issue maybe possible out there. So this is now fixed. I should have linked the pull request to it. That's the one. So closing that, close issue. So the one that Greg reported may still be the case. It may be warning that the cardinality estimation stuff may still be reported on its own query. So I'm going to leave a note in here for Greg. G.C. Can you try the current dev branch and see if you can repro the issue now? Thanks. And comment. And off we go. So there's that one. That's very cool. Welcome to the club, Cranchins. All right, so I'm happy we've made a lot of progress there. I'll stop for a second. So I want to say thanks to this week's stream sponsor, SQL Grease. So SQLGrease.com is a monitoring tool that you can get started with totally for free. They let you install the collector on your own machine. It connects over to your SQL server, does really low overhead extended events captures things happening with extended events, sends them up to SQL Grease's servers up in the clouds, so you don't even have to have a monitoring repository. You can get started without anybody's approval for budgets or anything. Just go download their client and immediately start learning things about your SQL server. Totally free. Only keeps data for like 7 days initially. If you want to pay, you can get extended more analysis. You can get data stored for a longer period of time, but totally free to get started. So totally give that a shot over at SQLGrease.com. So now I think it's time for another bio break. I think I'll go make myself a hot cup of water because right now that was my third espresso of the morning. And I want to save some caffeine possible intake for when my coffee shop downstairs opens. So we'll take a 5-minute bio break here, and when we come back, I don't know what we'll do. We might just do open Q&A. Might just do open Q&A and any demos that y'all want to see. Because there's stuff inside a first responder kit that I could go look at, but not terribly urgent. If there's anything you want to see me do or questions you want to see me answer after the break, feel free to put those in. I see your chat messages even when I come back, so feel free to go ahead and put those in, and I will see y'all back here in 5 minutes. I'll be right back. right, I have amazing news, and it's probably not going to focus in well because, of course, it gets a little tricky with the black screen and whatnot. We have a successful database mail test. Dun, dun, dun. It's kind of nice. I like to just glance at my email whenever I go look out on the, go make my coffee and that kind of thing. And we have freaking successful database mail. Oh, it's unbelievable. We actually got it. So that means that we can go back to writing our database mail stored procedure. Woo! Yes! So happy with that. And then Necroduck asks, what's the city outside the window? I'm in San Diego, California. It's a little bit overcast. I'm not sure if it's going to rain today. It has to look like it's raining over by, so for general purposes, Mexico is that way. I can see Mexico out of the living room window. I can't see it as much out of my office window, but it looks like it might actually rain this morning. So, Surly Dev, you might have received a non-database mail test too. Let's go look and see. This is not a database mail test. Oh, Surly Dev, you're just mean. You're just mean. So it worked. So we have that. Renee says, in light of the cardinality estimate, what's your take on type conversion expression may affect the... So when you say, tell me more about what your take is, what do you mean what your take is? Like ask a question, but don't just say, hey, what do you think of Iceland? Just to get me more specific there. And Jedi Mind Gorilla is heading out, so we saw that. Let's see if anything else came in over the afterwards. Okay, so I think we're good there. All right, so now we get to go work on the stored procedure for database mail, which is kind of awesome. I'm very happy about that. So let's come back over here into the posts. And let's go see the post that we had, that stored procedure. That's so awesome. So our how to get alerted when your SQL Server restarts. Let's go see what we can do with this little thing. And then let's go get the code back out. Copy paste all of this. Come back over to SQL Server Management Studio. Go close a few other things that we had inside here. Close you, nope. Close you, nope. Close you, nope. New, paste. Okay, so we need we've got the email subject. Now we've got the list of sys databases. Now we need to figure out who to send the email to. So when last we met, we were looking to go see what we could get out of the configuration tables. So select star from, and that's going to be over in MSDB. So let me switch over and hit MSDB. Use MSDB, go, select star from DBO, mail, sysmail profile. Let's try that and see what we get. It's got to go do the whole thing. All right, good. So here's a profile ID and a name. Now, how do I know which profile I want to use? Because there could be a whole bunch of profiles. So let's see, select star from sys all columns where name equals profile ID. So what this is going to do is it's going to get me out of all of the system tables and stored procedures, anything like that, anywhere where profile ID is mentioned. So this helps me when I'm trying to figure out joins. Can conversions affect cardinality estimations? Yes. Yes. Can conversions affect the cardinality estimations? Yes. So let's see here so we'll go object name, object ID. So now let's see where these things are at. Principal profile. Whoa, I didn't even know what that is. Principal profile. What? Select star from sysmail principal profile. I've never even heard of that one. Oh, good. Oh, okay, cool. So I wouldn't be surprised if that gave me the default profile if it existed, which our SQL Server doesn't have one. Grants permission from no. That's not what I want. Nope, that's totally not what I want at all. Okay, so if it's not that, let's see what else we got. We got sys profile account. We'll try profile account. Sysmail profile account. And execute. Yeah, it doesn't really say whether it's profile or not. So here's my worry, that somebody might have set up a whole bunch of profiles, and I really want to hit like the one that's used for by default. So let's go Google. Let's go see. So SQL Server, which database mail profile is the default? Let's go see how to configure the Glen app. Nope, nope. Nope, not nope, nope. Ah, okay, maybe. All right. Mail profile. Maybe it's around agent. Kyle Brand, Stevie G's the answer specifies which profile to use for the agent operator emails. Ooh, that's true. We didn't set up any operators, even a fail-safe operator. So let's go set up an operator. Agents, operators. Let's set up a new operator, and we'll say Brent Ozar. He is on duty, Brento at brentozar.com. And I'm not going to set up any on-duty stuff or anything like that. I'm not going to set up any agent job or any alerts. I'm just going to set him up as an operator first, and let's go see. I wonder if there's a way to see what mail profile is the default here. Enable mail profile, database mail. And enable that, we'll say database mail. And we'll say, I might as well do the fail-safe operator. Yeah, sure, let's do it. Notify using email, and then say, okay. And let's see if I go in, and I think I have to restart agent. If you're Chris, you're watching on Twitch. If you scroll down on my Twitch page, it's got my merchandise shop on there, and you can buy the mugs from there. So I'm restarting agent to make sure the database mail works there, and I have my email or my operator set as a default. Now, is there a way? Can I tie? So he said, set the desired profile to be the default. I didn't really want it as the default, though. So the thing that I'm worried about is if I have multiple emails, multiple profiles, I want to see if there's a default one. Profile, where name like profile, in case there's going to be one that says default profile, because I'm trying to fish for profile, mail all items. None of those are good. Kevin, Glenberry's checks. So one of the things with that is I don't want to copy paste code from anywhere else because other people's code tends to be copyrighted. You want to check, for example, the licensing on Glenn's scripts. And that's generally good anytime. You'll notice that I never, when we're doing blog posts together and all that, I never copy paste code from someone else's stuff. Chris says you could look for a public profile. Yeah, but there could be multiples, and I kind of want to know which one to use. That's kind of ugly. I was really hoping that we could just hit execute and call it a day. Let's see. So this said, that's right clicking. I don't want that. I want DMVs. So let's start. Well, let's go with Google's with documentation on sysmail profile. I don't want to set a default. No, because things change on people's SQL servers, and if I'm going to have this work, I want it to work all the time. All right, how do I make a? Ooh, okay. Add a join to this principal profile, sysmail principal profile. We were looking at that sysmail principal profile. And it's good. This is Gaurav. I think that's the same exact one. Yep, that's the same exact one I've got up on here too as well. So there's nothing in there because I didn't set it as a default. Let's see if it actually works. If I just call the stored procedure even without setting as a default, it should work totally fine. So the profile name I'm using is Brent's Gmail. Brent's Gmail. Recipients are Brento at brentozar.com. Whoops. Brento at brentozar.com. And the body is going to be, body goes here. And the subject will be, whenever I'm doing testing, I like to put the date and time in there, 2020, 0620, 0606 a.m., just so that when I get repeated tests that I know which one just came in. So execute. All right, so it's been queued. Now let's go see if that mail has come in. Checking for email. Yes. So the email came in. So if it's probably too far in. It's probably hard to see. There we go. So in here, we've gotten the email. That works. This is the thing that I'm aiming for, is I want to be able to send emails even when there's no default profile set. And I want to be able to send it to the fail-safe operator. So I also need to get the fail-safe operator. So here's what I'm going to do in pseudocode. If there's a default profile, use that. If not, use the first public profile. Half the night? I guess it really is that long over between Orlando and Miami. Is it really that long? And then who it's to, if there's a fail-safe operator, use that. If not, use, I don't know what I want to go with there. That's actually a really good question. So we'll start with that. Is there a default profile? So this default profile was talking about principal profile and profile account. So let's set a profile temporarily as the default, 4 hours. Woo! Let's see here. Configure, next, view profiles, and view or change. It's a profile that I want to use. Next. So it doesn't show you anything about how to make one a default. What? Oh, maybe there isn't a default profile? No. Maybe the only default profile is set at the agent level? Oh, it's an agent property. It's an agent property, not a profile. God, now hold on a second. Let's zoom out for a second. Because my whole thing where I'm at here is I want this to work even when agent isn't working. So someone may have configured the agent email incorrectly. So I'm at an interesting point here. I really wanted to make it easy so that they could just hit F5 and run it, and it would pull the default mail profile and the default operator from the SQL server. I'm starting to be like, I'm not really sure if I want to do that now. I might be a little bit on the ambitious side, and I might make them actually pass in a mail profile and an operator. Ambitious, but crap. So in order to ship the email, to ship the blog post, because I want to make sure that I ship at least one blog post this morning, I'm going to keep it really simple, and I'm going to have them just pass in a mail profile and the recipients. So let's do that. Let's come back over here and be a little bit less ambitious. And we'll say, same thing with send emails until recovery stops. We're not going to get that ambitious either. We're just going to say, profile, or we'll say database mail, profile name, and varchar. How big? What is the profile name? SP send mail. I know we looked at this earlier, but I don't think I remembered the send database mail, what the parameters were. So the parameters are profile name is sysname, okay, and recipients is a semicolon delimited list, a varchar max. Varchar max, that's interesting. So this is sysname equals null. I'm not going to, nope, I'm going to require it. And recipients. Recipients and varchar max. And you know what? I'm gonna put empty values in there so that people put it in. Fill this in. Fill this in. And then we'll say if coalesce. We'll be explicit here just so people don't freak out. If database mail profile name. Whoops. Nope. Database. Why is autocomplete not working? Oh, because I don't have an as up here. Database mail profile name is null. and recipients is null. Now, is that the way that I would normally write the code myself if I was doing my own code? No, but I just want to make it really clear for people. Normally, I would use a coalesce. I would do a coalesce of both of these, and if the coalesce is both null, then I would bail out, but I'm just going to keep it really simple for people who have to read the code later. Then I'm going to say return. And normally I would do big error handling and raise roars and all that. I'm just going to do this for now as just a plain old return. So there we go. We've now got our subject. Now our recipients are recipients. And then this is database mail profile name. Okay, it's just like any project, our requirements gradually go down as we realize how much work is involved. Okay, so eval praise says, what post are you writing now? We're writing a post on how to send yourself an email whenever your SQL Server restarts. Just as soon as the SQL Server restarts, send an email with the status of the databases. Oh yes, Northern Canuck, that is absolutely correct. So we'll catch an or there. Okay, good catch there. All right, let's give it a shot. Now, for the purpose of testing, I'm going to leave this the way it is. I'm going to send all of the databases on here just because I want to see what the test looks like. So let's execute it. Then let's execute this, copy. And for those of you who haven't seen the spiffy double arrow drag here, this little double arrow here that lets you drag down, super handy for when you want two windows on the same script, when you want to see what you're working on up there, database mail profile name. Mail profile name equals, and then we have that over here. Grab both of those, copy, paste, and that. And then, G Sardine. I like that. I'm going to copy that and I'm going to try it. Copy. Let's try that. Paste. That's kind of interesting. So then, you know what I can do? I can say if that's null, return if recipients is null, select top one recipients equals I'm kind of anal that I do DBO. Oh, where did you get this from? Where did you get this from? Did you write this? I want to be careful just that we don't put copyrighted code inside here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this out. Whenever I'm trying to check for copyrighted stuff, I just go through and Google like a part of it just to see if I catch it. And that's definitely not it. Oh, that's kind of cool. It looks like this might be something that you wrote just yourself. So, no results found. Yay! Go, G Surgeon! Awesome. All right, very cool. So perfect. Just to move this down so that we see that better. Okay, perfect. That's beautiful. So, and I'm going to put a comment in here. If they didn't specify a... Oh, Walden. Oh, yeah, Walden. Oh, I love that. Oh, that's great. That's a good one. If they didn't specify a recipient, use the last operator that got an email. So at this point, I'll say if recipients is still null, return. And then you know what the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, so Walden said if they only have one profile, use that. So let's try that. Let's try select top one database mail profile equals, and then I got to get select star from DBO profile. I'm not in MSDB, so I have to switch over. I hate it when that happens. MSDB, DBO profile. Execute. All right, beautiful. Equals from select top one, name from. Now, so here, this gives me this. So now I'm going to say, and 1 equals select count star from, MSDB, DBO, sysmail profile. So if they only have one profile up and running. It's early dev. I love it's early dev asking for a friend. So can you copyright code? Yes, you can totally copyright code. So absolutely, you have to be worried about anybody's DMV scripts, utility scripts that you have over the years. So I'll tell you what, one of my great regrets when I was a database administrator was not keeping the lineage of every query that I ever wrote. As I was a database administrator, I started accumulating a bunch of scripts that some of them I'd built by myself, some of them I copy pasted from the internet. And then whenever I switched jobs, I would just keep that code with me. It was like a carpenter's toolbox that I was growing over the years. Well, the problem with that is whenever I went to work for a software vendor, the software vendor was like, nope, you're going to delete everything you've ever had. You're not bringing one line of code. If we don't know the lineage of where it came from, it's got to go. And then also, as I was doing blog posts, I never wanted to write a query because take a query from my toolbox because it might have been copy pasted from somewhere else out on the internet, and so that would be bad. So just as a small piece of advice, if you're building a toolbox for yourself, like things you've done over the years, put a fork in that one. You can keep it still, but start a brand new toolbox from today forward. And anytime you write or use scripts, put the source right up at the top. It's okay if you take other people's stuff from the internet that's not copyrighted and you're just using it yourself privately. That's fine. But what I'm worried about is for you when you start to present years from now and you want to show things publicly, you're going to want to know if it's your own stuff or somebody else's. So like pro tip type stuff. Okay, so here we have, if the profile name is null and there's only one profile, then we'll go set the profile. Then at this point, if we're all the way down here, now I'm going to say if database mail profile name is null and, or either of those is null, then we're going to bail. So we've got that. Later, I may end up doing an error check inside there, but I'm fine with that as it is. So beautiful. Now, as it happens, I only have one email, so I should be able to run with this even with no parameters set up. Let's go back over to master and let's see. I think we're good here. So I got my creator alter. Everything is good there. Now I'm going to take off the database mail profile name and all that. Let's execute. Good. It's created the stored procedure and put the mail into the queue. Now let's go see what we have in terms of emails. Delete a couple of emails. Delete, 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 delete. So I used to hoard domain names. I used to think, oh my goodness. So we have a successful email here. So it says, damn it. So it says SQL Server started. So that's kind of awesome. That's fantastic. And it says all databases okay. Oh, woo! Which is true. I mean, they're all okay. But Kevin says, do you think executing sysxp instance reg read? The things that I usually ask is it on by default? If it's on by default, then you're good. You should be okay. And I think we even have that in SP Blitz. Let's do a quick check in SP Blitz. Now, I don't want to do it in the case of this stored procedure. I'm not going to go to that length because I got to ship this thing relatively quickly. So modify XP instance. Nope. Yeah, so it's not in there. So it's not something that I would add. If it's not already in SP Blitz today, then it's usually the kind of thing I wouldn't be comfortable adding right quickly. Okay, so now we have this is good. Yeah, Richie, exactly. Or I should have just injected it automatically into SQL Server as part of patching the startup process. So we've got the first test, which was if no databases existed with this, we would say all databases were okay. Now let's take that out. Let's say, because I want to test what happens when databases are not okay. Yes. Beautiful. So we already have our first problem here. So in here, we were trying to convert, in this line right here, we were trying to merge together an ID and a name. We're trying to coalesce these. That ID needs to be converted to a string. So we're going to say cast as nvarchar10. Is that enough? I think that's, yeah, execute. Oh, yes, worked. I should be saving my work as I go. All right. So now let's see here. We got another one. Yes, sweet. We have another one. Oh, and it even renders so beautifully that I need to show it to you. Hold on a second. I'm going to switch my screen because I have to make sure if I pull up my email that you're not seeing things that are wonky. So now let's come back. So here's the email that it produced. Oh, this is the first thing that I want to make sure is that we actually got our carriage returns and line feeds correctly, and we did. So here we have the list of databases. That is fantastic. That's gorgeous. So we have that. That's lovely. Now let's come back over to this piece right here. So let's get this logic correct. So now this will come in if the databases are okay. Gabriel says, if the database is still in a restoring state, will the stored proc return an email? No, because it's normal for folks to do things like log shipping. So if you have log shipping, I don't want to alert that you have a database in bad state. Now, I'm also going to do this filter in here. This works beautifully. It's possible that I could put something together in here and no rows would return. So I'm going to just say if email body is null, set email body. We could not get a list of databases with problems. Better check on this server manually. All right, so there we go. And I think we're good here. That should do it. Let's execute that. Make sure that I get another email. All databases okay. Hot diggity. I think we have it. So there is our blog post stuff right there. Now, it does have creator alter, which technically only works on like 2016 Service Pack 1 and newer. So when I go to write the blog post, I'm going to rip out this creator alter stuff. And instead, we're just going to say alter, and then we'll start with an if not exists. And I have that for the SP Blitz type deployments. I'm going to just grab one from one of the others. Here we go. Copy and close. Paste. You know, I could just call it SP. It's in a stored procedure. Yeah, you know what? Screw it. We'll just call it SP. SP, send startup mail. Copy, paste, paste. Showed run, I'm not sure what you mean there. Ask it in the, is this a personal project? I mean, I'm a business, but I'm not exactly sure what you're asking there. All right, so good. We have that. Execute. Perfect. Now I need to change the name of my exec down at the bottom. Perfect. And I'm going to comment that out just for, we'll say for testing. And then there. All right, there we go. So we have it. So now let's copy this all out and let's go paste it into the blog post. So here, save. All right, so first we'll write a stored procedure to send an email. Here we go. Enter the start. That is perfectly fine. There we go. And then second, we'll mark it as a startup stored procedure. Second, we'll mark it as a startup stored procedure. You know what? I'm not gonna do this. So originally, I was gonna try to write this in a storytelling perspective and like say, first we'll write a stored procedure. Second, we'll go mark it as a startup stored procedure. I want people to just copy paste this directly out and immediately run it because that's what people do when they see my code out on the internet. So instead, what I'm gonna do is instead of saying a little header here, so the below script uses the system stored procedure to send mail, and for this to work, you'll need data. Then it sets this stored procedure as a startup stored procedure, so it runs whenever SQL Server starts. So now let's go back. I'm not going to say second we mark it as a setup stored procedure. Instead, I'm just going to go back and get the code to mark a stored procedure as a startup stored proc, and we'll put that inside here. We'll say mark this stored procedure as a startup stored procedure. The other thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to tell them how to alter their SP configure settings to look for startup stored procedures. By default, SQL Server doesn't look for startup stored procedures. I may want that. I don't know if I want that to be a separate stored proc. I do, and I'll tell you why as we get to that. So let's mark it as a stored procedure. Close this all out, and we'll start a new one. SQL Server startup stored procedure, and SP proc option. There it is. So here we go. So this is I'm much more flexible about copy pasting code directly from books online for those of you who are doing the blogging and presenting stuff type thing. Because this is, even though Microsoft copyrights this, they want you to go through and use this code. So that's not as much of a big deal. Copying the entire contents of books online, that's a separate issue. I've been through companies that have actually done that. So start a procedure from for Opera. Jim says, I guess I overslept or I underslept. That's the other way to think about it, Jim. Boy, I don't really like the leading commas option. So we'll say comma, and then you, and then comma. And we'll say this is, what was the name of the stored procedure that we did? Send startup mail. Copy and paste, and then let's try it. Make sure that that works. Damn. Okay, so that's fine. In that case, we are not going to have parameters then. Oh, this would be terrible. No, I'm not going to do that. So I was going to say I'd have a shell stored procedure that calls another one. I'm not going to do that though. So in this, I'm going to need to declare. So we're going to need to declare. Oh man, this sucks though, because now if I'm not allowed to use parameters, that means I have to successfully detect the profile and email to use, or I'm going to have to make them edit the code. So that's what I'm going to have to do, is I'm going to have to make them edit the code. I'm going to say you have to set the below variables. Wet Seal says put it in a table. That's not bad either. That's actually not bad. Oh, I like that a lot. Wet Seal, I like that a lot. Yeah, Wet Seal, I think you have a winner there. I like that a lot. So Wet Seal. So we're going to create the table if it doesn't exist. So we'll say, part of me wants to say the drop table if exists, but I'm just going to say if exists, select star from sys all objects where name equals sp send startup email config. If exists that table, I'm going to say if not exists. If not exists, begin and no, I don't even need a net. Well, yeah, screw it. We will create table dbo sp send copy paste create table and we'll say what do we want to put in there? We want database mail profile name sysname recipients varchar max. It's going to be heap. I'm not even going to bother putting any rows into it. And just if rows exist, we'll go check from there. All right, so that's good. Execute. Then we'll say, instead of you have to set, we'll just lose this down here. Select top one. I'm only going to pull one row. I don't want multiple rows set inside of there. Later, maybe if we wanted to loop through all of them, somebody could build a cursor or whatever. I'll leave them up to you. Select. I got to declare, so we'll declare. We'll copy this out. Declare. Copy, paste. Now we no longer have that. Now let's say declare, don't need to set them as null. Varchar max. Then select top one equals database mail profile name. Recipients equals recipients from copy, paste. There's that. Perfect. I could throw filters on there where it's not null, but I'm not really worried about it. If they're both null, that's kind of okay. And they could pass in one but not the other. Okay, I kind of like that. That's kind of excellent. Modifying code lets me change and manage across multiple servers, assuming they have a consistent profile name. So we could do both. I mean, we could let people modify the contents of the variables. So we could say, if you want to change the code, you can do that here, equals null. If you want to pass it in, you can set the default values. So we'll say if database mail profile name oh, no, I don't even have to do that. Here we go. But you're going to throw an error when default column name is what I like a lot. So they could say if Walden wants to modify this, he could encode. So he could change this value. Then I was going to say if exists, select star from sys all objects where name copy, paste. God, this thing's getting long. Then begin and end. I'm going to need a dynamic SQL string here because the table may not exist. Set, so we'll call string to execute, and varchar 4000. Set string to execute equals u. Oh man, now I'm going to need output variables. God, this got so complex so fast. All because it's not allowed to accept parameters. Such a pain in the rear. So now we're going to execute exec sp execute SQL string to execute. Here's a list of parameters we're using. Database snail profile name. Copy paste. God, this is going to be a pain in the rear. Oh, this is going to go in the first responder kit because y'all are just going to be like, I want to say these are going to need to be output deals. Output. I feel so sorry for anybody who's watching the stream right now who doesn't do SQL Server. People who don't do SQL Server are probably looking at this like, who would ever put this much coding logic inside the database layer? And those of you who are asking that question, that's a very valid, good question. I don't have a good answer for you. Sometimes I'm just here to act as a bad example. So set that database mail profile name recipients. I don't even know that this is going to work because it's been a while since I've used. It's been a while since I've. Oh, I need a comma at the end of that. It's been a while since I've used output variables. I'm going to go quadruple check and see. So sp executes SQL for my dashing good looks. Output parameter. Let's see here. So let's see here. Output parameter. Yeah, Renee. So that's a we could check to see if it exists when we join to it. Renee, I'm going to write that down because I'm not going to hit it yet, but I will hit it in a second. So Renee. I don't know where the pagination is in your names. Jedilarson. Check for incorrect profile names by joining to current setup. That's such a good catch. Renegade Larson. Okay, all right. I liked my version better, but Renegade Larson. I liked Renee. That was kind of cool. Johnny says, I'm software QA watching to expand or explode my mind. This one's really just going to set your mind on fire. It's like, who would ever, especially quality assurance? There's no quality inside this stream. This is not good. So we're not in Kansas anymore. Okay, so we've got, output stored procedures, output parameters. So let's go find out using the output parameter. So let's read this for a second. Output. Okay, so I got to do param definition, sales order out equals sales order number output. Okay, so I'm going to need a second one. So table and table and table and table. And then equals, how did they phrase that one? They said sales order out equals sales order number output. Okay, all right, cool. I think that is going to be I didn't see how that worked. I got to read it again more carefully. All right, select this, declare the sales order number output. That seems kind of stupid. That seems really dumb. Okay, all right, out equals, all right, so this is table equals this output, recipients table equals recipients output. I'm not a big fan of that, but let's see if it works. Let's see here. Let's just execute it. Northern Canuck, yes, you're right. To me, that's part of the value of this too, is just so that people get, I know that when I went through the Microsoft Certified Master Program and I was on site in Microsoft for 3 weeks, I thought I was going to be the dumbest person in the room. And then seeing how everybody else had to kind of like work through the source code and understand what was going on too, I was like, oh, I don't suck that bad. No one else really knows what's going on in here either. We're all kind of winging this on the fly. Now, especially to be fair, like I never write new stored procedures from scratch. It's just not something that I do. My job is usually to put out fires in existing code and existing bad table designs, so that it would help that you're not in here looking to see how I do examples of how I do something right, because God knows I don't. Okay, so let's see. I don't need to mark this thing as a startup. Let's just execute. Okay, it can ran. Let's go run it. Mail queued. Why do I have such a hard time believing that? So let's look at my email and see all databases start. Okay, all right, you actually worked. That's kind of stunning. Now I'm going to have to create that object and actually put stuff inside of it. So let's do, first off, let's drop that table. Hi, Lee. Good to see you again. Drop table DBOs, SP, send, startup, email config. I'm going to drop the table and then rerun the stored procedure just to make sure it works. Good, it works. Then I'm going to create the table and I'm going to put a row in it. Insert into DBO startup. There we go. Whoops, SP, send startup, values. I'm going to put in a good one first, and then Renegade, I'll put a bad one in, and we'll check it. Brent's Gmail, and then the recipient will be brento@brentozar.com. All right, so let's do that insert. Oh, no, we got to create the table. All right, and then we will go run the proc, make sure that actually works. Delete. Yep, that one worked. Okay, good. Now let's put in an invalid one. So you can delete all these damn emails. Now let's put in an invalid one. So let's drop table, truncate table. DBO, SP, send startup. Wow, there's no IntelliSense for truncate table. That's kind of funny. Execute. Now let's put in a bogus one. Let's put in XXX. And now we got to build some error checking inside of here. So what we're going to be doing is we just inserted a bogus row into the configuration table. Now we need to go check to see if that row exists in the real tables inside our stored procedure. The way that I'm going to choose to do that is I am going to, in my select, my dynamic SQL select inside here, where I'm getting the rows from the config table, I'm going to join to the current profiles then. Reason why is they might have multiple rows inside that config table, some of which are for old crappy profiles that no longer exist. So we'll call this, because why not, MC for mail config. What? Inner join MSDB. So where did we find the profiles at? Let's see here. Select star from DBO profile, sysmail profile. Let's see how that works. Beautiful. So to that, copy, paste, P on MCP on MC database mail profile name equals P. What's the name of the profile name? Just name. Okay, name. All right, let's see if that works. And MC, oh, hammer. Oh, okay, so then at that point we got to do it, right? Okay, so MC and then hammer. I'll regret that for the longest period of time. TZH, I'm with you. I'm not usually a big fan of database mail, but this is the idea of the blog post. So I've got the stored procedure in here. Let's recreate the stored procedure or alter the stored procedure. Execute. Let's go test it again now. We have invalid. Oh, I didn't do any handling. Well, it doesn't matter because I've already got handling down here saying if it's null, then bail out. So let's go try it. SP send startup mail. Now what should happen here is I should still get an email because down here, and I did, yes, sweet. Because if it was null, then we're going to go fetch the one, if there's an active profile in here, do it. Okay, so just to put a comment in here and kind of explain what's happening, check to see, or we'll say, if the config table exists, get valid email profiles and recipients. Get recipients and valid. Get recipients and valid email profile. All right, there we go. So that's done. I like that. I think we're good. I think we are good. So save you, and now let's try one more round of testing. So let's put the stored procedure in place. I'm going to truncate the table. I'm going to have absolutely nothing in it. Execute, and then run it. Okay, a mail got queued. Let's make sure that I actually got an email. Got it. Now let's put a bogus line inside there. Execute, run it. See if I get an email. I got it. Now put another line in there with a valid one. Brent's Gmail. Now I have a valid row and an invalid row, and it should still pick up the valid Gmail profile and role. Now what I'm not doing in here is I'm not testing with multiple different valid profiles, for example. I'm not going to that crazy of an extreme. And got it. All right, I think we're good. I'm not also doing any kind of checking about recipients, validity on recipients. I just don't care about stuff like that. Sharon says you can suppress the line of email queued. Yeah, I don't really need to though. I kind of like seeing that just to know that emails actually validly went through. Okay, so now I can delete into there. And I'm going to say in here optionally, if you want to drive the configuration from a table, insert a row into this. And there we go. Put some space in there for creating the proc and mark it as a startup stored procedure. Okay, beautiful. So I think we've got everything that we need inside here. Copy and then paste this back over into the blog post. Paste that and hit save. So let's zoom out for a second and talk about what we've got so far. So the original goal this morning when I first got started, when we woke up before dawn, was I wanted to write a stored procedure that would, upon a SQL server's restart, send you a database mail. Now, we've got a stored procedure in here. We've done a pretty robust, I still have to Renegade. I need to change the README to match what you had suggested in there. I'm going to change the README to put just your name. Now, the other thing I got to do is I got to go write documentation for this. Oh, man. I'm going to have to write enough documentation, and it's just complex enough that this might be something that I would put into the first responder kit. The reason why I would do that is just so that people can do pull requests up against it. So I got to make a decision there. I don't know that this is something that I want to troubleshoot on a regular basis or something that I want to deal with having lots of pull requests on. So I may just leave it in the blog post and call it a day and not even bother having it on GitHub. I have a separate GitHub repo that I use for blog post demos. That's probably where I'll end up putting it into. So I got to write the documentation and I have to put it into GitHub. So let's stop here. We'll take another bio break. I'll do a quick shout out to our sponsor. So our sponsor for this week is SQL Grease, which is a totally free monitoring solution. They have additional paid tiers that you can get into too as well, but their starter free one lets you collect data on a SQL server for 7 days. You don't have to install a repository. You don't need a separate monitoring SQL server or anything like that. You just install their lightweight agent, point it at your SQL server, and it sends data up to their cloud, where they're even starting to do stuff like machine learning to track which of your workloads are unusual, like if you all of a sudden have an anomalous workload that you haven't had before. So you can go download that totally free over at SQL Grease. Lee asks, not sure if this is the right time to ask. It's funny because it's about scheduling. Get it? It's a scheduling question. Lee says, but how do you schedule posts? My posts always fail. Do I need a different provider? No, what that means is that cron isn't set up right on your WordPress. So if you Google for like WordPress cron testing, there'll be scripts out there that you can run, or WordPress plugins that'll check and see why your cron isn't working. If I remember right, last time I troubleshooted it, the cron relied on someone visiting a web page, like someone actually had to go visit a page, and that kicked off the cron activity, but that'll be your starting point in order to find it out. That's what's happening on there. All right, so let's take a short bio break. Let's take a 5-minute bio break, and I will go refuel my hot water that I didn't even get finished into drinking there. And then when we come back, I'll write the documentation and get this stuff into GitHub and schedule the post. So I'll be back in here in 5 minutes. right, welcome back. So now sun is starting to rise out here in downtown San Diego. So we've got probably about 45, 50 minutes left before I want to go downstairs and go grab my coffee. So one of the tricks with writing stuff like blog posts and scripts is that you always have to be so cognizant of how much time you have left, you know, what you're going to be able to accomplish in the time that you have. So in 45 minutes, am I going to be able to get this thing into GitHub, write the instructions for it? And also, there was one other piece that I wanted to test in here. What was it? Renegade Larson's README. So I need to make the tweak to that. So then I'm always so torn too with how I'm going to write instructions. And I think the way that I'm going to write instructions is I'm actually going to record. I'm going to take the part of this video where we're walking through the script. I'm going to actually go and walk through the script live and interactive as if I'm setting up the thing. Now it's going to be old hat to those of you who've been watching me code this through the last hour or so, but let's see what we've got inside here. So Renegade Larson, I'm going to go move him up to this piece up here. So for the README, and then do the best with the time that you have, the best you can with the time you have. More info. So for more info, I'm going to put HTTPS www.brentozar.com go startup mail, and we'll still have to fix that URL here in a second. All right, so we've got this startup thing. Oh, the other thing I had to check was how to tell whether or not your SQL Server is checking for startup stored procedures, because that's a non-default SP configure option. So in there, I'm going to write an exploratory query. Select star from sys configurations. So SQL Server has these parameters that you can set using SP configure. They're the same parameters that most people set by right-clicking in SSMS on the properties window or on the server name. If I go over into Object Explorer, I right-click on SQL 2019, I go into properties. There are all these settings like max server memory, cost threshold for parallelism, and max DOP. Well, you can see all of these in the sys configurations view. So I'm going to go back over into sys configurations. So here are the things that we're allowed to set, like there are many other things in SQL Server 2, database level settings, trace flags, and so forth. But here we're looking at a bunch of settings. One of them is going to involve startup stored procedures. So I'm going to say order by name. And then the other thing I could do if I wanted to is I could look for the word startup, where name like startup. And we'll see if we catch anything out of there, and there it is. Now, what I have to do is I have to figure out how it's set currently. And so the set currently is the value in use. Value in use is right now our startup stored procedures turned on. So what I'm going to have to ask is, we're going to have to look to see if startup stored procedures are turned on, and if they're not, I have to give them SQL to go run to enable it. I don't actually want to enable it for them, because when you run reconfigure in SQL Server, you can blow the plan cache, especially if someone has made changes to things like cost threshold for parallelism or max stop and they haven't taken effect yet. Now, I'm not going to explain beyond that brief wording, but that may be an eye-opening experience for some of you. So what I'm going to say is if zero equals select value in use from sys configurations, where name equals you, paste, then select warning, startup procs not enabled. Startup procs not enabled. So let's just start there. So here's how we're going to go detect that they haven't turned on startup stored procedures yet. Now, I don't want to select a result. What I want to give them is the dynamic SQL that will turn on startup stored procedures. So I'm going to do it with a print, begin, end, print. Now let's get out of you. So we'll say print, and I'm going to put it in a comment so that they can copy paste the whole thing. Warning, startup stored procs not enabled, run this to enable, and then print sp configure, scan for startup stored procs, exec, one, and then we'll do a print reconfigure, and let's see how that goes. Exec. Ta-da! All right, cool. Now, there are dangers involved with running a reconfigure. That is also beyond the scope of what I'm going to explain inside here. I will mention it in the blog post. So now I think I'm good here. So let's go copy paste that out. And I'm just going to temporarily put that in down here. Turn on startup stored procs. And then let's run our little test again too, just to make sure that that works. Hello. That's not quite right. Exec. What the hell? Send startup mail. So didn't I just run startup stored procs as 1, reconfigure, change from 1 to 1. Oh, the SQL Server has to be restarted for this to take effect. Oh. And so I'll need to say inside here, copy, paste, and then run your startup and then restart the SQL Server service, or it will take effect automatically on the next restart. Boom, 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 boom. That works perfectly. Okay. And then I'm also going to say if, okay, so here's what else I want to do. So here's my thinking. Let me go do the select star. Let me just go copy this damn thing out and go. I'll walk you through it. Copy and paste. And did I use my pedal control drums? I have a whole drum team right behind me, and when I make a certain aim with my finger, they all of a sudden run it. TZH, no, I don't at all. I don't do any T-SQL authoring on a regular basis, so I don't get involved with any of those. So here's a problem. So in here, I have scan for startup stored procs turned on, but it hasn't taken effect yet. I don't want to throw the warning if they've already put it in and it just hasn't taken effect yet. So what I'm going to say is if either the value or the value in use, if both value and value in use are 1, so I want to say if 0 equals this, and 0 equals this value. So then that way, I'm only going to alert them if they haven't restarted yet, or if it's not turned on. So let's go execute that. And there we go. Beautiful. Okay, that works. I am fine with that. And then there we go. All right, so save that little fella, and I think we're off. I think we're good there. Okay, so I think we've got everything that we need in order to run this. I'm going to copy this all out. I'm going to go put it in the blog post for now. I don't think I'm going to hit GitHub with this. I think I'm actually going to leave it just where, God, I really need to put it in GitHub because somebody's going to want to commit a change. I don't want to do it. God, I hate it. I hate dealing with having to deal with. It's one of the things that's just painful about open source is dealing with pull requests, and it sounds so first world problems. It sounds terrible for me to say that I don't want to deal with it, but one of the things is when you give code out to the world, people want to nitpick stupid stuff, or they want to contribute things that I just don't agree with. Somebody will be like, I would like it to use a hekaton in-memory table, and it needs to work with big data clusters, and they'll put in stuff, and I'm like, I don't give a rip about any of those things. If you want it, go fork the project and go do your own thing. So one of the things that's nice about just publishing code in a blog post post, they just are forced to put comments in, and I'm like, yeah, no, I don't really care about that comment, and I can just be like, no, thanks for your time. Whereas if you put it in GitHub, then you start getting the pull requests, and I'm like, no, I don't really want to deal with issues and all that on there. But then the plus side is that when it's stuff like SP Blitz, Blitz First, the community is so good about contributing value and fixing bugs, doing things that I never would have thought about. Yeah, exactly, Wetfield, that's exactly how it works. So they're so good about doing things that I never would have thought of. So to some extent, it's worth it. I just cringe whenever I put a new script into source control and I have to deal with the aftermath. But we'll be good and we'll go do it. So I have a repo. I'm not sure if I put it on this desktop. No, I haven't. So let's go over on GitHub. I will switch over to my own profile. And I have my own repo for code demos somewhere in here. Is it in the company one? It might actually be in the company one. Your repos, just to make sure, SQL Dev. No, okay, so maybe it is in the company one. Let's go over to, there we go. Let's go to the company repo. And then there it is, brentozar.com demos. Okay, so I will clone or download that, open in the desktop, open, clone it locally. And now I will, so never fetch, yep, go ahead and fetch. Now I'm gonna go put it under T-SQL. It looks like T-SQL, oh, beautiful. Okay, so there's one for Brentozar demos. Yeah, that's fine. God, just get tops. File save as. We're going to go put it under ctemp, and then under demos, T-SQL, send, or what's it called? send startup mail.sql. Okay, we'll save that, close it. Oh, I need to put a license in there. I don't know that there's a license in the entire repo. I don't know that I put a license in the repo. If not, I need to add one. Oh, I'm going to add a license file in there as well because I want this to be just MIT licensed to let people go do whatever they want with it. Okay, so we've got it. I need to do a pull request. So I need to... wow, it's kind of odd that you're working that. Okay, there we go. Let's see here. Create, that's fine. Create SP send startup mail. Commit to master, because that's how I roll. Push. And now if I go back over to GitHub and into T-SQL, ta-da! Yay! All right, good. So that's in the blog post, right? Or I can now copy a link over to that and go put it into the blog post. So here, copy that. And now I'm going to take it out of the blog post altogether, take all the scripts out of there, save and delete you. So instead of how to, now I'm going to say get alerted when your server restarts with SP send, what the hell do we call this thing? Send startup mail. Send startup mail. Okay. We'll say, I've got a new, or that's also just I wrote SP send startup mail to, we'll say, paste, to fire whenever your SQL server restarts. And tell you if you have databases in unusual states. In unusual states, suspect, offline, in recovery, etc. You can get it from my GitHub repo here, but it won't be part of the first responder kit. I just wanted to put it out in GitHub so y'all could check in changes if you wanted. In my GitHub repo here, so we'll link that again just so people get, shoot. So good, that worked, all right, fine. So how it works. I don't know that I really want to, Man, I don't know. Now just thinking about having it in GitHub. I'm like totally off my game this morning. I'm already like dreading what I'm going to have to deal with in terms of pull requests. So I'm actually going to hit stop here. I'll schedule the blog post and write it, and I'll do documentation, but I am not going to do documentation right now. That is going to be the end of my morning stream. Isn't that weird? Like that sometimes what you do is enlivening and exciting and makes you feel better. Other times you get done, you're like, oh man, there are parts of this job that I'm not really that interested in. I don't know. But as part of my journey is blogging, what do I do? Why do I blog? Why do I stream with y'all, for example? I like sharing what I know and sharing what I learn, and I like you seeing the work that I put into this kind of stuff. But there are dark sides of it too, like just building anything open source and sharing it with the public. There was a great saying recently, a study that was done, that procrastination is all about avoiding difficult emotions. That the reason why we as human beings procrastinate is that we want to avoid difficult emotions. And for me, this is such a great example of that. Because like I look at that blog post, I'm like, oh man, I don't even want to publish that because I'm gonna have people nitpicking apart the code, and I'm gonna have to deal with the aftermath of it. And I really just wanted to, hand it out there to the public so people could do something with it. So at the moment, I'm feeling on a downer. I will feel better when I publish it, because at that point, I know people will be like, oh, that's really interesting. I learned something. But right now, it's kind of hit or miss. Johnny says, I see that you're having fun with this. I mean, it's like anything else. I really enjoy playing with SQL Server, with databases, just the cloud, all kinds of stuff. And there are parts of the sharing that I really love. There are also parts of the sharing that I don't like. And dealing with people's, I'm with you, Gaurav. I don't mind the documentation in some cases. I'm going to enjoy building a video on how it works. But, TZH, that's a great question. I always schedule stuff out in advance because I have, just to show you, if I look out at the posts that I have right now, and I'll show you the calendar view because that'll be a little bit more interesting. So right now, here's next week's blog post queue. So on Monday, I've been trying not to publish 4 blog posts a week. Now, Monday, finally, you can buy swag. Those of you who've been watching Twitch, you've been able to do it for like a month. Through my Twitch profile, you can go in and buy the company mugs, the t-shirts, all that, the hats, that kind of thing. Tuesday, this one was written months ago, building big query plans. So when Richie needed big query plans that would cause a problem with SQL Constant Care, I used Dynamic SQL to go dynamically build a really large execution plan, joining hundreds or thousands of tables together. How to upgrade SQL Evaluation Edition to Developer Edition. Because I ran into that. I had a instance on me time bomb out, and I don't know why I even ever installed it as Eval Edition, but I went to go Google, and a lot of the blog posts were kind of convoluted, so I'm like, I'll just whip up a straightforward one. And then a question around, what do you do better than the cloud? As in, when your managers, Northern Connect, when your managers are talking about going to the cloud, what is it that you're going to say that you do better than the cloud? Because it ain't backups. It ain't backups, and it can actually be restores, though, because a lot of cloud providers do really crappy restores, both Microsoft and Amazon included. So I go through a thought-provoking exercise in there that if you're worried about the cloud, what specifically is it that you're worried about, and what are you not worried about? What do the cloud providers totally suck at? And maybe that's where you should specialize in. That's why I don't do production DBAs type stuff on things in streams. What do I do? I don't know that you do that any better than the clouds, but I admire and share your goal of doing that as well. But yeah, I don't want to do production DBA stuff anymore because that I think is really eventually going away. Not really short term, but like 10, 15, 20 years out. 10, 15, 20 years out, I think most companies will be in the cloud and most databases will be in the cloud. It's still a good 10, 15, 20 years out. Hopefully I'm going to be retired by then, but I just don't want to cut it too close. So TZH, your question was, why do I wait before publishing? Because I've already got stuff set up that I want to go live with. This one I want to sleep on, make sure that I get good documentation on it. So I'll usually come back a day or two later and be like, oh, I forgot the thing, like add up one more additional thing. Yeah, so yeah, that's the end of that. I am going to record the instructions videos. TZH in 10 or 15 years, I'll be dead. Which, yeah, I wonder, it would depend. Well, it depends on how the virus thing goes. Man, none of us are going to be in good shape. All right, so I'm happy with where that's at. It's good enough. Surly Dev, I'll tell folks where that is. Oh, Divorce Beach and Marriage Beach in Cabo, Mexico. Oh, I love those beaches. Mike, good to see you, sir. Sitting outside with the farm waiting for the cow water to fill. Mike, here's the deal. Milk isn't called cow water. The rest of us just call it milk. It's not cow water just because you squeeze it and it comes from cows. And it isn't going to fill it up itself. You have to actually squeeze the udders, Mike. I shouldn't have to tell you this. You're a farmer. I know but he says, good juxtaposition to watch Brent in the AC and sipping his espresso. Give me 20 years, long enough for straight path. I know it's always fun to think about, like, when's my retirement trajectory at? I would love to be out by the time I turn 50. Like, that to me is, I would love to be retired by the time I turn 50. We'll see how that goes, though. All right, so thanks y'all for hanging out with me this morning. I'll quit just a little bit early today, and then I'll go piddle around the house. I think I'm going to go take the car out. It is 65 degrees here. I'm going to take the top off the car and go zip around California, or go zip around San Diego. So, Surly Death. Surly Death, it doesn't give me all that much time either. I think it gives me like 3 years left, so we'll see how it goes. I'm so glad y'all had fun with it. Thanks for hanging out with me this morning. Y'all are really the reason that I do this, because, of course, it's so much more fun having people inject comments as I go, and y'all have really good ideas. You know, like y'all saw when we were writing the code together that y'all really improved the quality of the code, like the driving the thing via a table was fantastic. That was really good. So thanks, y'all, and I will see y'all on the next stream. I'll probably stream tomorrow morning. I have a relatively easy weekend ahead of me. I don't have a whole lot of stuff going on. So, yeah, right. It's early dev, exactly. Adding more to your to-do list. Well, thanks, y'all, and I'll see y'all later. Adios.